what compelled you in this moment to write a book like this?
Yeah, so I didn't actually set out to write a book. That was I was angry. I was angry about feeling erased. I was angry about feeling I talk often in the book about the church. I'm speaking often to Christians, because that's where I grew up. That's, I feel, where Canada and the United States grew up, whether they think of themselves as Christian countries or not anymore. That's where they grew up. And so, we all kind of carry that bag. Those of us who grew up in the church, we all carry that baggage with us, whether we've stayed or left. So, it was one of those, we're all the same in Jesus sermons. And I was feeling very erased and flattened because I don't stop being an Indigenous woman, no matter what space I walk into, right? That's always who I am. And so I was angry. And so I was kind of posting about it on social media, and that didn't make me feel any better. So I wrote an article that Sojourners magazine published, and it was about how the church finds home in a way that makes Indigenous people homeless, and then kind of consumes our identity, erases our identity. And and then an editor contacted me and asked if I had ever thought of writing a book. And for years I have said that the church needs to analyze its history, needs to analyze its theology, needs to analyze the way it thinks. Because so much of how the church thinks is reflected in the policies and practices of our governments and our institutions. And so it turned out that I'm one of those people who needed to write that book. There's a lot of very good books that are being written on that subject right now, some of them very academic, and others, kind of more like mine, more conversational, more reflective of my own journey. And so as I was writing and kind of going through the history of this place and, kind of asking, where does the story begin? Where does the story begin? I followed those threads all the way back to how we see ourselves as people, creation stories and what those tell us about who we are.
Yeah, I appreciate even your reference to, like, there's other books being written, and kind of the approach. What I found about your book was that it was very accessible, in terms of someone. I don't consider myself an academic. It's someone who's a layperson in terms of trying to find resources and to really immerse myself in Indigenous voice. And so I know that's something that really spoke out to me in this book in terms of understanding, being able to access the ideas, to access to really reflect. I think about the piece that you've integrated into every chapter, that part that talks about Ambe, and I hope I've said that correctly. Let me know if I haven't. But I wonder if you could talk to us about the intention behind that and what even prompted you to write your book in this way.
Yeah, that was actually my editor's idea. Valerie, the one who reached out to me, that was her idea. She said, we get to the end of these chapters and we have a lot of complicated feelings about what we've just read, about, kind of seeing our own family histories differently, seeing our own country's history differently as we read this. So we want to do something with these feelings. So why don't if you wrap up each chapter with a task, with a thing that we can do, then that will help. And I really liked that idea. I liked it for a couple of reasons. One, I also like to be given things to do. When you have big feelings, you want something to do with them. But also I do read a lot. And so often we get to the ends of these books and we don't know what to do. We don't know what to do with these things that we've learned. And so we just kind of put them aside and move on to the next book. So every chapter, and it starts very simply. I mean, the first task, because Ambe just means let's go, And so I kind of envisioned the book as a journey that we would take together. And I actually suggest that people read it with somebody, so that you've got somebody to talk about. I hear a lot from people that they didn't know this or that they hadn't thought about it in this particular way before. And so tasks operate the same way. Let's do this task together. And the very first task that I ask people to do is to just notice, just where are the Black and Indigenous people in your life? Where are we? Are we Where are we on your bookshelves? Where are we in your films? Where are we as you kind of go through your day? Are we always the service people, that you come across, and, where are we? And not to read a lot into that at first, but just to pay attention and just to start noticing. And then as we move through the book, the tasks they start asking a little more of people. And another part of that I have really come to appreciate, but that I don't think I thought of at the time that I was doing it, was we do tend to skate past the hard things. We do tend to kind of move past them. And when I talk to people, often groups that have completed the book, and then I'm kind of coming in at the end of their book club and talking to them, they've latched very hard onto the hope and onto the possibility of relationship. And I feel like I don't get the sense that they have sat in the difficulty and the challenge of it. And so these tasks are also a way of slowing people down. And okay, we're going to think about this. We're going to think about whose land we're on. Land acknowledgements is another task. We're going to think, what does this mean? What does this mean for me to exist? What does this mean? And to really look inwards, because it's very easy to look outwards and to say, well, they weren't real Christians, or, they weren't, they're just conservative, or they're just this, or they're just that, and they're ruining everything. Well, what about me and my own role in the community that I live in? And so that's what I want. I want people to turn that inwards into their own selves, into their own communities, and for, in their own theology and in the songs that they sing, and all of these different ways that these ideas have kind of become part of our lives.